All right, we're here with Johnny Wonder. We are going to talk about the new Callaway UW and the new Callaway UT. So,
yes.
Give me an idea of kind of what the differences are between these two, and we'll have you hit some.
Well, so on tour, I'll kind of relate it how it goes for better players and on tour. So players that want to hit have the option to hit like that knee-high fastball that chases out there for like the open or some hard ground. The UT is usually their option. Some guys like Adam Hadwin might put an iron like this in their 4-iron just because they want the extra ball speed.
Okay.
That might be the reason, because there's always that point of diminishing returns in the bag where they might swing their 5-iron as fast as their 4, and that's where you start to get the weird gap. So this could be a gap breaker, or it could be a legitimate tee club that you want to hit low and get high if you want to. So the construction of this one kind of gives you all options. With the center of gravity, you can hit it low, it'll spin, but if you want to hit it high, kind of get it out there a little bit with some ball speed, you got that as well. The UW is kind of like I would call like a tweener club. It sits between a hybrid and a 5-wood. This is a 19 degree, but the new version allows the players to get a little bit better turf interaction off of tight lies, where the last one was a little bit limiting. This one's got slightly faster ball speeds. It does not have jailbreak, so the ball speeds are a little bit faster, but it also spins a little bit more. So those kind of balance each other out. But the reason why this club works so well for a lot of players, not just on tour, is the spin retention up and down the face, so out of the middle. It doesn't spike and spin if you hit it thin. You don't get those knucklers if you hit it out of the top of the face. So this, for most players, if I was just going to call it out now, unless you're very specific, the UW is going to fit more bags than a UT would.
Probably just makes things easier for a lot of the average golfers out there.
Well, like, how often are you out there trying to hit like a 240-yard stinger? It's not happening. But some college players and better players that are high speed want to hit that shot, so then you got an option. But most normal people, like, that's kind of your jam.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, this is what we'll do. We'll hit both of them side by side. We'll test them out. I'll kind of talk to you about the numbers we're seeing, and we'll see which one is better for you.
All right. So I'll call it out now. So like in the past for me, utility irons haven't loved, just because, in the past they've had a really wide sole. They've been kind of a longer blade length. So, sometimes you put down a golf club and you just kind of know you're going to hit it solid. UTs, in my experience, they kind of just look like they don't have a lot of loft on them.
Okay.
So I just, I've kind of always struggled with them. But
you've got 3 different lofts in that one, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So let's hit a couple. Like, that was out of the middle, but ooh, it cut. I don't hit a lot of cuts. Let's just see where this goes. 200. Okay. So 20 degrees of loft. So my 4-iron is 22 in my set. So 4-iron for me is 205 to 210 if I juice it.
Okay.
I'm 46. I don't hit big tomahawks anymore, but so that was a little skinny, but that's the construction of this iron. It's still getting up in the air. It's still getting out there.
You can see a little more spin, but it's still not a horrible miss hit.
Yeah, if that's into the wind, the ball's not completely out of your hand.
Right.
So it's still holding on to it's still retaining some spin in its line. I'm just more excited that the ball's going left to right. I usually hit everything left, so my flight home is going to be a happy one because I have it in there.
So normally, Johnny, for me, when I'm fitting players, especially into this type of a club where it's either a club you're hitting off the tee, or it's a club like you're trying to approach a par 5 and 2.
Right.
This is generally when you're going to see this club.
100%.
Potentially maybe like a longer par 3.
Right.
I'm usually asking the question of, what are you typically going to use this club for? Because I'm trying to target a certain descent window, depending on where they're hitting it. Is that something that you see?
Yeah, that's the question that we even ask on tour, is like because every club has a job to do, right? And if it doesn't do its job, it doesn't belong in there. So like, you have to ask the player, which the viewer's gonna have to ask themselves, like, what am I gaining by putting this in my bag, by pulling something out? So this, in this case, this would replace a 5-wood or a UW or 2-iron or whatever. So if you have a situation where you need height and you need to stop it fast in the green, sometimes this UT won't do that for you if you're not that player. So yeah, if you're in Texas or you're in a hard ground and you need to chase it out there and you need that club, then
It's probably a pretty good option. Yeah. No, that's kind of what I typically see too. I'm usually looking for, if it's a club that you're hitting off the tee, that you're looking for kind of that max distance like you talked about, I want that descent angle closer to 35.
Sure.
So you're going to get a lot of that
flat.
roll, and it's not going to peak as high potentially. If you're hitting it into a green, I'm looking for something closer to 45.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing for a lot of players that maybe don't have a ton of speed, can't get the ball very high up in the air, this may not give them that option of being able to hold a par 5 and 2.
Right.
It's going to hit the green and just run off the back.
And getting the ball high in the air in what you're describing is center face with speed in the air with some spin. Not I hit it thin and I added a bunch of dynamic loft and got up in the air, because this is not that club. I mean, that's not going to help you either.
Yeah, totally. No,
Okay.
that's good to know. So, even just looking at I know you've only hit a few shots there, but even just looking at kind of your numbers, like your spin's pretty much right where we'd want to see it for this type of a shot, generally somewhere around the 4,000 mark.
Right.
You're maybe just a skosh over that, but it's nothing crazy. Your launch angle's hovered pretty much right around 15 for every single one, which
That's all right.
for this club, I don't think that's that big of an issue.
No.
The biggest thing would just be that descent angle again. So you're right around 40 degrees. So if this was a club for you where you're like, man, I really have this par 5 that I need to hold a green, or this longer par 3 where I'm really trying to stick this thing,
Right.
that may not be high enough to get you kind of what you're looking for.
Well, the other thing you have to consider too is, for my bag, for that slot in my bag, I have to, bare bones minimum, I have to get at least 142 to 143 ball speed out of that part. So on average, I'm getting 130. Now, granted, I didn't hit them all great, and I don't hit these things very well, so just to be fair to the club, but that's roughly 22 yards short of my bare bones minimum.
Exactly.
For that club to work in that slot.
Yeah.
So, but we're going apples to apples. I mean, this is 20 degrees versus 19 degrees, so these live in the same bucket.
Exactly.
So,
yep. And you even said your 4-iron was like your 205.
205. Yeah, we'll call it. I say if I'm swinging a good 210, 212, I'm normal 205 maybe.
And this was carrying right at 198 on average.
198,
So
yeah.
you basically already have that club in your bag.
I do, and I just from an appearance standpoint, I look at that and just go, I don't know if I'm going to hit it solid.
Yeah.
And that's just me. That's why you got to get fit.
That's totally fine.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's switch gears. We'll have you hit some of the UW, and we'll just see the difference here.
So UW, obviously it's a longer, different look. It's more of a hybrid look. But just for the players at home, this just inspires a little bit more confidence. And the nice thing I like about this club is I like the appearance of loft.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I
Especially
feel-
for a shot like this.
Yeah, I don't want to feel like I have to help it up. I want to feel like I can go down and get it, get some face on it, and
Is there any kind of bias built into these?
no, just dead central, neutral center of gravity. So I kind of wipe that, but still, look at the ball speed.
Yeah. 11 miles an hour faster. That kind of fits your window that you were talking about of 142-ish.
Yeah, which if I'm feeling good about myself and I'm swinging good, I've gotten high 140s, 150 out of a UW or a 5-wood, but I don't need, for my bag to work, I don't need that.
Right.
142, 143 is just, I can go play that way. I got it going every which way. But just look at the height.
Yeah, I was just going to say, your launch actually came down a touch, which is interesting versus the UT.
Yeah.
But your descent angle's up a couple of degrees higher, which is where you want it to be. You didn't lose any spin.
No, hit it thin. But that ball's in my hand. I'm going to find that, and
Right.
I'm scoring off of that shot. Let's hit one more. Ooh. Hey,
Kind of the same story there.
Yeah. But that's for the folks at home, that's manageable. Those aren't,
100%.
I'm not making great golf swings, but those are 3 shots in a row that I could find. Bare bones minimum, they're hitting my numbers. The spin's good, the launch is good.
Yep.
Yeah, I ain't mad at any of those.
No, I think all of that makes perfect sense, especially when you're fitting for kind of the top end of the bag.
Right.
Like you said earlier, you're really using this club for probably a specific shot or a couple of instances throughout your round where you're like, hey, I need a club to fit this type of shot that I see
Right.
on my home course.
Yeah.
In general, you're just going to find many players benefit from something that's easier to hit.
Yes.
For those 1 or 2 swings that they might have in an 18-hole round where they need to hit at 220 or 230.
Yeah, and for the guys on tour like Sam Burns, Andrew Schalthy, this is their par 5 club. So they both play a 21-degree version of this club, and it's their 245 off the floor, 250, but it doesn't go too far. If they mishit it, they're going to get enough out of it on the par fives. It stops, it spins, it does everything they need to do because that's the job of that club and that part of the bag. So.
The length on these is just a little shorter than a 5-wood. Is that
yeah,
right?
So in the 19, I believe it's 40. So like a normal 5-wood would be 42 inches, like end of grip.
Yep.
So I think this is 41.75, and I think the 21's like 41.5. Our guys on tour played a little bit shorter than that, so they'll go 41.25, 41.5, depends on the player. But that's the other nice thing is you can use a fairway wood shaft, so you get that feel of a fairway wood. And the reason why they'll go a little bit shorter is because you're a little closer to the ball. They can get steep on it. They can beat into the ground.
We see that same type of thing even when we're just talking with driver fittings. In general, most of the students that we have that come in and go through a fitting with us, shorter than standard length is what we recommend.
Yeah.
Just because of that same piece. Like it's easier to find the center of the face. It's easier to hit.
Right. So, an argument can be made in the 3-wood spot, but when you get to the 5-wood hybrid, I feel like the shorter you go, the better you are, because you're getting into that transition where you're getting steeper and your angle of attack's getting more like an iron, and you want to catch these things on a downward angle of attack.
Yeah, and you're basically hitting it the same way that you would a 5-iron or a 4-iron. You don't want to change what you're doing. You see that a lot with amateur golfers too. They get a club like this, like you said earlier, that doesn't have the appearance of loft, and they start trying to change things in order to create loft. It's nice that you have something here where you have the appeance of loft.
Yeah, I can go down and get it. Yeah, and these are designed to get them out of here, like where the ball's working up the face, not like trying to catch it out of here like a traditional 3-wood from 20 years ago.
Yep.
So anyway.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's definitely the better option for you just based off of what we saw.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there you go.
Clearly an easy way to go through this. Like long game fitting just as important as short game, driver, irons, everything else.
Yeah.
But, if you're looking for something at the top end of your bag, the UW, the UT, 2 options there depending on what you need. A couple of great choices.
Kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.